Hello everyone, welcome back to the MFC. My name is Koopa and I am so glad to be here with you today because I am fleshing out a brand new concept today. And I got this idea because lots of people lately have been back into Smash speculation, and I just figured, let me start watching some videos on Smash speculation. And in the midst of those speculation videos, I've seen people make some crazy rosters just for fun. Like, for example, a roster with all Mario characters or Pokemon characters, or a roster from a game from every single year since 1980, or something along the lines of that. So that's what we're going to be doing today in this video. I'm essentially going to be constructing it together with you here and show you my process of how I do a roster and why I'm picking the characters that I am. This is only going to be part one of this whole series of live streams, just because I'm not going to have the time to do it all today and explain every single character, but I'm going to try to get through the first two today and kind of talk a little bit about what we're looking at for the future. So here's what we're doing, guys. Let's transition to this right here. This is going to be what we're looking at. This is the document. This is where I typically start my journey. And this is on Google Docs. And we're going to be starting a document called Animal Smash. Basically what this is it's Super Smash Bros. With all of the characters replaced by Animal Crossing characters. Now, there's a lot of characters to choose from, so it's going to be tough to be able to pick, and choose favorites or not favorites, but that's what we're going to go through today. So let's start with the first base game roster. This is going to be starting with Smash 64 and going all the way through the newest game, Smash Ultimate, including all of its DLC. So that's kind of what we're going to be doing. We're not, like I said, getting to all this today, but I'd like to at least get through some of it today, just to kind of make some progress on it. But I've already typed up every character, so the characters have already been chosen, and I may change a few things here and there, but basically the main rosters have been chosen, and I'm pretty pleased about how it turned out. So here's what we're going to do. So we're going to start by inserting a table. Now, the first Smash game was 12 characters. It started with 8, and then we increased it to 4 unlockable characters. So it's going to look something like this on your screen here. Move this over a bit. There we go. So 12 characters. All right. So, zoom in a bit. All right, there we go. All right, if you're currently just tuning in, we're making a Smash roster with all Animal Crossing characters. That is our goal for today. All right, number one. Let's start by formatting our boxes. Let's make them all uniform size, all squares. And we'll do that a little, yeah, that's fine. And then we're going to split the boxes because you know what? We're just not going to worry about all that. We're just going to fill in names right now. So, first name that we're looking at. For Mario, Link. I'm probably going to butcher the exact places that they were placed, but I don't think it matters as long as all the characters are there. Fox, Pikachu, Yoshi, DK, we got Ness, Captain Falcon, Luigi, Jigglypuff, And who am I missing? Kirby. Perfect. All right, so here is Smash 64's roster. So we need to change all these characters into equivalents to Smash 64's roster. So you want to have a Mario character that feels like a very important Animal Crossing character from the get-go. And then because Luigi is a clone of Mario, we want to make sure that we have a character that's a clone of that character to replace Luigi as well. Same thing with Link. We have to think into the future of having a bunch of Link clones and seeing who can we get that falls into that category of a Link clone in the future. So it's a character that can have multiple clones of itself. Same thing with Pikachu. I mean, Pikachu is part of a greater series of Pokemon. So maybe that character could be a part of a greater series of NPC characters or villager characters. And Kirby has a copy ability. So maybe somebody that's into eating things or something like that. So that's kind of the criteria in which I've chosen characters. These have to be valid Animal Crossing characters, obviously. But one thing to also note that we're doing here is that these characters must be corresponding with the games that were released when that system released the Smash Bros. So let me explain that. Maybe I can say it better. So because Smash 64 was only on the N64, and Animal Crossing Debutsu no Mori, which was the Japanese release of Animal Crossing before it was released officially for the first time to the English-speaking audience in the US here, as Animal Crossing population growing, that game had come out and it had a lot less characters, a lot less NPCs. There was no Blathers, there was no Tortimer, there was a lot of characters that were in that game in the GameCube but weren't on the past game. So we actually have to base our rosters off of when the games were released. So this is the criteria for that. So the very first game, Smash 64, is only going to take characters from Animal Crossing on the 64, which was Debutsu no Mori. For Smash Melee, which was on the GameCube, it can only take characters from all the past games, so that were on the GameCube or later. So it's Debutsu no Mori and Debutsu no Mori E+, and Animal Crossing Population Growing. Are you following me? All right, the next one is Smash Brawl. That was released on the Wii. So that can take any games from the past and also games that were on the Wii. So that's going to include City Folk and Wild World and all the games that I mentioned in the past. Now, we're moving to 3DS and Wii U. This would include all the games that were on 3DS and Wii U up until that time. That would include New Leaf, Happy Home Designer, and, it pains me to say it, Welcome Amiibo. And then finally, Smash Ultimate, and the criteria for that is going to be any Animal Crossing game that's been released so far. So that includes the mobile game and New Horizons, including its Happy Home Paradise DLC and all the characters that came with that. Okay, so that's our criteria. We talked through that. Now let's talk about how we can use Debutsu no Mori to form our first Smash 64-esque roster. And we're live. Okay, perfect. So, Mario needs to be a clonable character. And the person that I have chosen for Mario is going to be, let's go to it's going to be Villager. We're just going to find a picture of that player Villager. Copy this image here. That's that. All right, we're just gonna, I'm thinking, do I want to do this with every single character? I don't know. Make it bigger. Okay. Yeah, let's not do this for every character. I was thinking maybe let's do that, but I don't think it's going to be practical yet. We're not making the roster officially yet. This is just sketching everything in. All right, this is going to be male villager. He's going to be the main... I can't type. All right, there's that for ya. We got male villager, first character in the game. Now our Link clone. I was trying to think who's somebody that uses maybe like a sword. Obviously no one in Animal Crossing, but has more of like a warrior role, somebody who fits that bill. Well, I've chosen Copper to be a representation of Link in that game. He will have a kind of a tipper mechanic similar to Marth in past games. Copper will use his staff that he holds with kind of like a point at the end, almost like a spear, but more as like a staff to kind of hit opponents and create sword-like movements. And he will also use pitfall seeds as traps. Next one is Samus. Now, Samus is eventually going to have some transformations of herself in the future. So I thought, what's a character that we can have like transformations of in the future? And so we're going to come back to that character because I haven't fully... I can't remember what I picked for that one, but I remember what I picked for Yoshi. Mr. Rossetti. Now, I didn't pick Mr. Rossetti for this character because I felt like he necessarily encapsulated everything that Yoshi is. But the reason I picked Mr. Rossetti is because Yoshi can swallow like players and trap them in eggs. And I'd like Mr. Rossetti to have this function to where he can like essentially grab players and take them underground and like damage them from underground and then pop them back up again. Or grab them and drag them like to another side of the stage for kind of more like stage control. I'd also like him to be able to use like longer like range attacks, similar to how Yoshi has his like egg move. And I couldn't really think of any better person to replace a standalone character who doesn't have anybody else in the series quite like Yoshi does. So Mr. Rossetti had to be in the game. He's the original Smash Bros. Like angry man, so we need to have Mr. Rossetti in the game. All right, let's go back over here. Now, Fox, he doesn't have a lot of characters in his series. He has 3. So that makes way for a couple clones of him, whoever this character would be, but there isn't a lot of them. But I've picked Tom Nook to be the Fox clone, essentially, the Fox character. And the reason I picked him is because I like there to be some variations of his character in the future as well. So I've picked Tom Nook to be the Fox equivalent for this game. Now, Tom Nook, I've decided I'd like him to have some moves related to bells and money. I like there to be the more that you hit a player or a player hits you, maybe would be a better way to look at it, that the more debt they owe you, essentially. So a money counter, the more hits that you take will go up and up and up and up. And once it's reached like 9,900, like 99,000 bells, essentially, you would be at your highest damage output. So the more that you take damage, the more output of damage you're going to be able to take for that character. And on top of that, I like the bells to be a heavy part in his moveset, but also planting furniture, because he's the one that he basically has all the furniture, he has all the clothing, the umbrellas, everything's at his shop. There was not even any Able sisters in this game, so that's pretty crazy. All right, Pikachu, I've actually mostly kept the Pokemon series as a series of villager characters, because there are quite a lot of them. I've made a couple exceptions as the Pokemon like trainer trio, and I've also made an exception in the same sense for Mewtwo, who is like a mythical character, and we have a mythical character that I like to take for that one, and you'll be seeing that in the next roster. But Pikachu, I've chosen Static. Now, Static is a purple squirrel villager with a lightning bolt. And I've always liked Static's design, and I thought it would be perfect to be adapted into a Pikachu equivalent because he can use static electricity to attack with different moves and stuff. And I thought it'd be so funny if he used like a rug to like scrape his feet along or something and create a static where he can, you know, shock people with a finger just because he's charged up his electricity by scooting along the floor. I thought that'd be super cute and original. So Static, the villager, is going to be our Pikachu equivalent. All right, let's move on. Let's go to Kirby next. So Kirby's equivalent is going to be Wendell. Now Wendell was in this game, and Wendell, in his, you know, whole biography of being in the game, he really likes to eat, and you bring him different food, different things that aren't even food, and he'll give you different patterns in Wild World according to what kind of food you bring him. So I thought it'd be really cool that depending on what Wendell ate, whether it was maybe a fruit or maybe it was another person, and like he, you know, got their copy ability, he would get a certain buff in a certain area depending on what that was. Or maybe you know, there's endless possibilities of what that could do. But basically, if he eats an item from a character, or even like, I don't know, can you eat a character? I don't know if that would be right. I think maybe let's not eat a character, but like if you eat any item, you'll just kind of retain some abilities from that. Whether it's a fire item, maybe you get like fire breath or something like that. I don't know. I haven't thought all these through. Just thought I'd bring some credibility to some of these things as well while we're talking it through. Next one is Luigi. That's going to be our female villager. So I've split them up into two genders, not because I want to segregate, but I thought it'd be cool to be able to play as either one and have them have a more unique moveset according to them, and eventually they'll get more palette swaps. So you're not limited to 3 male or 3 villager, female villager palettes. You'll be able to get 8 of each in the future, and I think that's going to be really nice to have more options for what you can choose. Now the female villager will have more moves that are related to nature, while the male villager will have more moves related to tools. So he'll have the shovel, the slingshot, the axe, things like that. And the female villager will have the tree and planting flowers and watering them and things like that. She'll also have a umbrella recovery, and while the male villager will retain the balloon recovery that you see in regular villagers moveset as it is in Smash right now. So female villager for Luigi. Now we got a couple more characters here. Now before I go into this, I need to pull up my list again. For some reason, I thought it would be a great idea not to have this already when I started this. So I'm just gonna quickly turn the camera off, and I'm gonna go on my phone, send it to me, and then we're gonna come back to this. But yeah, take a look at our roster so far. What do you think? Any thoughts? Any thoughts on the roster? Let me know in the comments. Take a look at our comments here. Currently not a lot of people watching, but that's okay. Hopefully if you're watching on replay, that this is something that is quite interesting to you, and kind of look into a little bit more of the thought process I have behind, you know, making something like this, instead of just making the video and just being like, hey, this is all you get. Like now we're going a little deeper this time. All right, I think we did that right. Let's check our notes. Exit our notes. And back in. And there it is. Smash If Animal Crossing series. All right, great. Okay, yes, I remember now. All right, it's all coming back to me. It's all coming together, as they say. Okay. All right, we're back. Let's do this full time now. So we got Samus. Her equivalent is going to be Gulliver. Samus has her Zero Suit, which brings out some of more of her weaponry and stuff, and I think it'd be really cool to see that in the future with Gulliver. So I picked characters that would work for their future selves as well, and I think Gulliver would be really cool. Maybe he can use some other Nintendo themed items, because he tends to talk about like other Nintendo IPs quite a lot because he travels around. Right? And he can also have the ability to fly and drop items and things like that. I think that'd be really fun for the Samus equivalent. Now, DK. DK is going to be a fun one. This is another villager. I don't know if I spelled that right, but Caesar. Caesar is kind of a gorilla character that appears in the Animal Crossing movie later on, but he also was in Debutsu no Mori, and he has probably one of the most unique looks and the most fun looks. He has like a little like mustache and stuff, and I think he blends in with DK really well. He could be a heavy hitter, and I think that in this game he'll also have a clone character, which will be the Captain Falcon equivalent, and that character is going to be Chao. Now, if you don't know who Chao is a panda bear villager, and Chao is very scary. The lore behind him is that he is basically a sunburnt panda, and he is a very angry villager, and I think this perfectly represents the fact that a lot of villagers in Debutsu no Mori and on were very angry, very arrogant, very prideful. Like, I think angry was really the best way to, and mean, I guess. So I thought Chao would be a great kind of mean villager. I had him back in Wild World, and man, he just was a pain to be around. He is a cranky villager as well. And then we also have Caesar, who is a jock villager. So both are equally represented here with the characters here on the roster. We have some jock, we have some cranky, and then we have some other characters as well. So what about some female characters? We got to get at least a female or two in here, even though the original Smash only had technically one female in Samus. It was Smash Brothers, but that's why a lot of people thought that Samus was a guy up until the reveal of Zero Suits. So we got to have another female character, at least one in this game. And we have female villager, and now we're adding one more, Katrina. Now Katrina was in Debutsu no Mori. Katrina is a psychic character that predicts your luck and your future. And I think that'd be a really good replacement for Ness. And there's only 2 characters in Ness's series, so you don't have to have, you know, too many more characters. You know, there's not really a Katrina equivalent, but I have come up with a perfect solution for this. So I am hoping that Katrina would be received really well. I think her psychic abilities and her foresight, kind of foreseeing attacks and being able to counter them, would be really cool, and use different psychic energies for her moveset. And then finally we have Jigglypuff. This character has come and gone in the series a little bit here and there. But I think this character equivalent would be, and let me get back to my thing. KK Slider. Now, KK Slider is obviously not a villager, but he is somebody that I want from the very beginning. You see him very early in the game. He's playing his guitar. He kind of helps you start the game. And he just makes sense to be in this first roster. I think he could use music type moves. And in that, I think that he could put people to sleep, similar to Jigglypuff. And I think he'd be a really good replacement for her. Now, here's where I made a little switch. Because I'm trying to keep Pokemon characters all villagers, I'm just going to simply switch Captain Falcon and Jigglypuff respectively, just so that the series can kind of keep their respective, you know, vibes. So Captain Falcon only has one character in the series, but he's a fan favorite from the very beginning. So even though KK Slider is technically going to be the Jigglypuff equivalent, I'd like him to take Captain Falcon's place in the series as that beloved character that never goes away and is a Smash like veteran that you never want to remove, even though he may not be even as relevant anymore, even though KK is very relevant in Animal Crossing still. And then Chao would just be that character that comes and goes. He's not the most popular, and he's pink. So that's another reason why I've made the switch. So this is your official roster for Smash 64's equivalent of the Animal Crossing Smash game, Animal Smash. You got your Mario, which is the male villager, and Luigi as the female villager, clone characters. We got Link, Copper. He's going to have another Link version of himself in the future. We got to make sure we make that into the equation here. Samus is Gulliver, going to have some transformations in the future as we add in the space version of himself and all of that. Fits the space theme as well. Then we have Yoshi's Mr. Rossetti equivalent. And Mr. Rossetti is going to be able to capture characters, kind of like Yoshi can capture as well. And he doesn't have a lot of other equivalents of himself in the game. So Yoshi kind of represents that series that doesn't really have anybody else in his series yet. And then Ness is Katrina, kind of using Ness's psychic ability theme to kind of tie in with Katrina. And how she can have a counter, kind of like a Lucario Greninja sort of thing going on. And then Captain Falcons is KK Slider. You know, he's a beloved character in the franchise. Very important and a Smash mainstay. And so we're going to do the same with KK Slider because he also is a beloved character and has been in every single Animal Crossing game since the beginning. And then Fox's equivalent is Tom Nook. They're both animals, but also he's part of a 3-character series currently right now, and I think there is a couple equivalents that Tom Nook can have, but not many, and so I want to keep him on Fox's slot. He could have a damage mechanic where the more damage you take, the more revenge you can get to collect your debt from other characters that you're fighting. And then Pikachu is a static equivalent, so static is going to be the Pikachu equivalent rather, and you'd be able to charge your electric moves and shock people and maybe even use the emotion of anger or thunder clouds to kind of use that as part of your moveset. And then DK's equivalent is Caesar, just a kind of a heavy type brawler jock character that works really well with DK. And Kirby's equivalent is Wendell, where you can eat items and kind of retain their abilities. And then finally we have Chao is Jigglypuff, which is another clone character. And that will be similar to how Jigglypuff is a semi-clone of Kirby and used a lot of the same assets. And Chao will take some assets from Caesar as a villager. Okay, well that is our Smash 64 equivalent to Animal Crossing Debutsu no Mori. Now we're about to make another roster. This is going to be the Melee roster, and we've added quite a few more characters, so we're going to take what we have, and we're just going to talk about the unlockable characters for right now. So let's copy all this. And now we're going to make a roster. How many characters does Melee have? We got 12 in the original game. It says 25, so we're going to do 26 because one of them is a transforming character. 26 spots divided by, let's see. Let's do this. All right, there we go. We're going to take the first 12 spots. And we're going to just paste that into them. Perfect. I think that'll do us good. Then we can just block out any spaces we don't need. Okay, here is our next roster. We have a significant amount of more characters here to work with. And we've got quite a few that are rolling over. We got a lot of clones to work with, so let's see what we got here. That's what we got so far. Okay, so let's start adding in some characters. I'm going to add in some of the characters that are already in the game. So this would be Peach, Bowser, Zelda. Let's do Zelda Sheik together. Well, is it IE? I think it's EI. Zelda and Sheik, and then Ice Climbers. You're probably already going to know what I'm going to go for these. Okay, so let's fill in these characters. Peach's equivalent is going to be the villager Rosie. This is a beloved character. She also is very loved in different forms of media. And Rosie was also in the, which was not released at the time, but the Animal Crossing movie, which would tie into her importance to the series as a whole. So I think Rosie is a beloved cat villager. People love cats, and we didn't have a cat in the previous Smash installment. So players are begging, why don't we have any cats in the game yet? Well, first character, Rosie, unlocked already from the beginning. You can play as her anytime. You don't have to worry about unlocking her at any point. Now, Bowser is another villager, and that's going to be Drago. I believe that's how you spell his name. Is it Draco? Drago? So he is a dragon villager who kind of takes the alligator kind of like structure and makes him into like a dragon. And I think that he could work very similar to Bowser. He can work with fire, or he can kind of use some of those angry insults that were in some of the game and kind of replace the fire with anger, an anger mechanic, and try to, you know, use that into the game somehow. Now, Zelda and Sheik, this would be a transformation character. They both kind of work together in tandem, but you can switch kind of freely between the two. And they also have different attributes. One's fast, one's long range, one's close range. You know, they all have projectiles. So I was thinking, since they weren't in the first game, but they are in this game, Sable and Mabel to be Zelda and Sheik. And so Mabel and Sable. Perfect. So Mabel is the Zelda equivalent. Zelda's in particular more bubbly and girly and extroverted, while Sheik is the more introverted, kind of like disguise. And I feel like that fits Sable really well because she's very guarded and defensive when you first talk to her, but then she eventually warms up. So I think that fits her character and Sheik really well. It's almost like an alter ego of Mabel, if you will. They're gonna be able to attack with scissors and sewing items and things like that. I think that'd be really cool. That maybe they can throw sewing needles or work together with things like that nature. So I think that'd be really fun Zelda and Sheik equivalent. And then you probably saw this one coming already, but Tommy and Timmy have to be the Ice Climbers equivalent. They work together in the game. They are super cute, and I think they would work perfectly together as the Ice Climbers, where if one gets damaged, they significantly drop in defense, and just going to be perfect there. So that is your base roster for Smash Melee covered with Animal Crossing equivalents. And we'll just show it one more time. We got Rosie, Drago, Mabel and Sable, and Tommy and Timmy. All right, let's start jumping into more characters here. See, we got Ganon and Marth and Roy. So Marth and Roy are going to need to be some clone characters there. Dr. Mario. Game and Watch. Warch. Young Link. Mewtwo. So we're getting to a lot of clones here. Pichu and Falco. All right. You know, we really could just kind of put them on the one side here, but we're just going to do this just for the sake of it. I think I got all the characters. Let's make sure through my list. Looks right to me. All right, let's roll with what we have here. So Ganon, his equivalent is going to be Jack the Caesar. Now he is a holiday character. It's exciting to have Jack in the game here. And Jack will kind of work in a similar way where he uses pranks and mischief and candy as well to kind of fuel his attacks. Maybe he have a candy eating mechanic where he powers up through eating the candy. But yeah, he'll kind of use the spooky vibes, kind of how Ganon also has spooky vibes to attack. Now, Marth and Roy come from a series of a lot of very similar characters, sword fighters, if you will. Well, we don't really have many of those in the game, but we do have quite a lot of characters that like to do the same thing. And it all started with Blathers, rather. And so Blathers is going to be the Marth equivalent. Marth has become a very important character in the Smash series. He's been in every series. Sorry, I can't talk. He's been in every game since Melee, and he's not like Roy's coming on, Ike's coming on. You know, so you know Marth is going to be that Blathers character. Marth and Blathers are going to be equivalent to each other, but that means we need a clone character for Blathers as well. And I think Roy is going to be having Chip be the equivalent of, you know, Marth to Roy, Blathers to Chip. Now, Chip is kind of the one who works with fish a lot, and Blathers works with fish, bugs, fossils, all the things. So Blathers is going to be taking different moves from fish and bugs, and he kind of is going to be releasing bugs because he hates them so much and he's so scared of them that he'll be using bugs in his moveset and releasing them, trying to get rid of them. In the meantime, being completely petrified himself. And Chip is going to be using fish to kind of take part in his moveset, including the fishing pole, which will be used for recovery, and kind of similar to Isabel's fishing pole, where you can reel opponents in and use that when they're at long range to bring them close range and attack. Okay, Dr. Mario. Now this is going to be not so much leaning into the villager element, even though he will be a clone character. We're actually going to be cloning another character, and it's going to be, let's see, what did I say the clone was going to be of that? Semi-clone of Static. So just a general villager character, and that's going to be Rattle. Now, Rattle is a frog villager. We have not had one of those in the series yet. He has a mask, like a face mask, and you know, obviously down back in whenever this game was released, 2003 probably, I think, is when that game came out, maybe even earlier. But whenever Melee was announced, you know, they never could see the 2020 pandemic coming and all that, but Rattle could use the new item that's in the game, Medicine, to heal himself, or maybe accidentally even heal opponents. But he can also use the bees that you shake the trees with that are in the game to kind of send out to different villagers and use them in swarm attacks. So not only can he heal himself from bee stings or opponents from bee stings if it helps in his advantage, but he can also send out the power of the bees to kind of attack opponents as well. So Rattle would be a static clone, just like Dr. Mario is a clone of another character. We got the clone theme going here. Let's continue with more clones, and we'll come back to Game & Watch. Young Link. He is a Link clone. His equivalent will be... Let's see. I think I've just thought of a change I need to make. I think Porter. We're going to do Porter. And the reason I'm doing Porter, I originally had Booker in the spot because, you know, Copper and Booker are very similar. But I think the reason I want to do Porter in this case is because I like, Toon Link is in the game until the next game, and Booker really started getting more popular in Wild World because he was like the checkpoint officer, and he would tell you like what's going on during the day and stuff like that, have the lost and found. So I think I'd like to incorporate him later on in the game. So we're just going to make that little switch, and I'm going to do Porter instead. So Porter is going to be a clone of Copper, and he's going to use a train whistle instead of like a weapon, and kind of use that in his advantage, kind of similar to how Olimar uses his whistle to summon Pikmin. He's going to use his whistle to kind of make whistle attacks, and also maybe even use his conductor skills to kind of use a model train or something like that. And later on, the train will be used as the final smash. Porter was a very important character in Dobutsu no Mori all the way on through that whole Animal Crossing GameCube series, so I think it just makes the most sense that Porter would be the unlockable Link clone to Copper. And I think we're going to keep Porter there instead of Booker, as I originally had. Okay. Pichu's another clone character. Somebody that can be another clone, potentially, of Static. And this would be Agent S. Now, Agent S was added in Animal Crossing Population Growing. And Agent S is a female villager, so it's a little different than Static, but still a squirrel. And Agent S can use that superhero moniker to kind of create some attacks that a superhero would do, have superpowers sort of thing. But unfortunately, Agent S is a little clumsy. She is a peppy villager, so she might be overestimating herself a bit. And she is also going to be the fastest character so far. However, recklessness causes damage to herself, similar to how Pichu can damage itself as well. All right, Falco, our final technical clone of the game. And I've chosen this. This would be a clone of, since Fox is the, Tom Nook is the Fox equivalent in N64, we're going to make this character a Tom Nook equivalent, which would be Red, Crazy Red. We'll just say Crazy Red because Red is, you know, also what his name is. But yeah, so Crazy Red would have a very similar mechanic where you owe him money, and maybe he can even use illusions, similar to how Greninja has like an item that stands in the way. So he can use painting, like counterfeit paintings, to kind of create counters and barriers to keep himself safe. Whereas Tom Nook uses more furniture to attack or to create barriers as well, but not so much as counters, but more as things to trap characters as well. All right, we got 2 more characters in the Melee unlockable roster. And let's do Game & Watch next. Who would be the Game & Watch equivalent? So I was trying to think who would be a good fit for Game & Watch. Game & Watch has a judgment mechanic where if you hit a character with a 1, it's a very low attack. You know, hit him with a 5, a 6, a 7, you know, all these different things. They have different abilities. But if you hit it with a 10, it's going to be the supercharged powered move. I was thinking, how can the number 10 work really good into this game? And I thought the best way to do that would be because Joan allows you to buy turnips in groups of 10 or 100. I think a turnip mechanic with the character Joan would be the perfect Mr. Game & Watch equivalent. So a 10 turnip mechanic where if you happen to pull out 4 turnips, it's going to be a lower attack, but you pull out 10 turnips, and it's similar to Mr. Game & Watch 10 when it comes to his judgment mechanic as well. And then Mewtwo. Now, Mewtwo is a mythical character. Like I said, Pokemon characters are typically going to be villager characters, but in this case, Mewtwo is a very special legendary Pokemon in the Pokemon series, and I think a legendary Animal Crossing character needs to be put in this place. Now, Mewtwo comes and goes in the series. And we don't really seem to see this character very much except one time in the Animal Crossing series, and that is the character Farley. You may not even know who Farley even is, but Farley is the creature that comes out of the well that gives you the golden axe, I believe. Golden shovel, one of the golden items in Animal Crossing GameCube. And so I've made Farley that mythical character equivalent, which is kind of similar to what Mewtwo is. And Farley is able to, he has this little staff. Let me pull up a picture of Farley. So this is Farley. You've probably never even seen him before. But this is him. So he's a little troll character, a little gnome maybe. And here's a picture of him right here. Let me take my camera out of here. Boom, there's Farley. And so Farley, as you can see, he's a pretty mischievous character, so he can use mischief similar to how Jack uses mischief in his attacks, but Farley would lean into more of using his staff to maybe conjure up magical attacks. It's maybe similar to Robin or maybe even Palutena. But yeah, that's Farley. So that would be your Mewtwo equivalent for this game. So let's kind of go back over all the characters we've covered so far. Oh, and our unlockable characters would be Jack instead of Ganon, Blathers instead of Marth, and Chip is the Marth clone instead of Roy, who is a... there's so many names, I'm getting them all messed up, but you can see that like that's a clone of Blathers. And then Dr. Mario is leaning into the doctor theme of healing when it comes to Rattle. And he can also send out bees as attacks. Joan is the Mr. Game & Watch equivalent with the 10 feature, as similar to Mr. Game & Watch has. We have Young Link, that's going to be Porter. And that is going to be a clone of Copper. He can use his whistle and train attacks, similar to how Copper can use some of his attacks in a similar way. Then we also have Farley. He's going to be the mythical equivalent in the game as well. And then I also have Agent S, which is the static clone, and that is over Pichu. And then Crazy Red is the Tom Nook clone and is used over Falco, since Falco is a Fox clone, and, you know, Tom Nook is our fox in this universe. So that is our official Melee roster. We have all these characters to choose from. There's technically 25 if you count Zelda Sheik, 26 as the transforming character, and then 27 if you count Tommy and Timmy. And so that's our Melee roster. I think that's all we really have time for today as far as going into, you know, the roster that we've created, but I think we've created some pretty solid playable characters in a range of both male and adding a lot more female in Melee. And we have some villager personalities represented. We have some additional peppy villagers, which are very popular nowadays. We have some very popular characters and ones that are not very well known in the series anymore. And Smash has quite a few of those characters, like Captain Falcon, Ness, and Lucas was not even seen in North America because he was on a Japanese only game. But there are some characters in Smash that are less recognizable because they haven't had games in a long time, or maybe are even Smash exclusive characters. And so having a character like Farley, who doesn't really appear in Animal Crossing anymore, just makes sense that he would become a beloved character that comes and goes in the series, but eventually came back for a reunion with Everybody Is Here in Smash Ultimate. And so I think we have a great variety here. We'll still have the villager as a playable character. He's split between two, male and female. We have quite a good amount of just regular animal villager characters, but a lot of leaning into a lot of NPCs as well. And I think it's a good balance of the two. So what do you think? What do you think of the concept of turning Animal Crossing characters into Smash character equivalents? Yeah, maybe make your own roster and let me know what you think you would like to see as the Smash equivalents in your own very own universe of if Animal Crossing and Smash collided, And instead of all Smash characters, they were all Animal Crossing characters. So thanks for watching, guys. I'm Super Koopa. That's going to be the end of our live stream today. Hopefully going to be doing some more live streams in the future with different content. We're going to complete this series with even more characters that we're going to add. So thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.